Hi, today we're going to be talking about the reverse bow stance, or the bird stance it's called because it's used for in a lot of the bird and white crane styles. The idea is that you're in a forward bow and you push the forward leg straight and sink into the back leg, making it a reverse bow, but you're still looking over your straight leg. If I were looking over my other leg, then I'm just in a bow stance on the other side. So this would be bow stance to bow stance, but this would be bow stance to reverse bow stance. My torso stays in the same direction. Facing forward, I'm in a bow stance. I shift back, sink down the back leg. That's a reverse bow stance or a bird stance. So to build up to this, obviously, the first skill you're going to need is a squat. So go ahead and squat down. If you can't get all the way down, keep your hands down, be on your toes, and just try to sink your hips down toward the heels. If you can get the hips toward the heels up on the toes and hands, great. And we're going to just start circling around from this position, just to loosen up through the groin and hips. We want our torso sinking down in the middle. The whole stomach area feels heavy and dropped. And we also want our lower back opening. A lot of times people have trouble with this. If you can release and open your lower back, you can sink back to the heels. But you just need to figure out where you're at with this and just spend as much time as possible in this squat position. Moving around, feeling around, sinking down more in the middle. This is basically a baseline skill for a lot of different stances and just hip and groin mobility in general. In martial arts, they refer to this area as the quad, which basically means the entire area that connects the torso and the leg. This whole area full of a lot of connective tissue and tendons, but you just need to think of it as this whole area needs to be able to spread and release open. Because we typically hold a lot of tension in the hips, usually a lot of this stuff is holding on tightly, and that's why you don't have mobility in your hips and groin. So you need to be doing active movements, which we'll move toward, but a lot of passive learning to relax and sink into this area. And that's why using this stance, this just basic squat is so helpful. It's just something that you can basically learn to get into and just hang out in. You can kind of, if you're doing something, where you don't have anything to do, you don't have a chair, you can just try coming down into a squat. It actually can become a rest position. So keep hanging out in the squat, moving around. Again, if you need your hands on the ground, that's fine. You can use your elbows to pry the knees open. You can bring the hands together in the center. One quick mobility exercise you can do here is have your hands in a prayer position, or if you want to be more kung fu, they can be in a fist salute position. And you come through the center and down, back up through the center. So as the hands push into the center, they should pry the elbows more further apart, back and forth. If you're already super flexible, you might need to use your fingertips here and really push your elbows into the knees and pass through the center as you come down and up with the hands prying the knees apart. You can also push into one side, turn to the other side, trying to open up this one hip in particular. So I push my elbow into this knee and I turn and look over and try to lean my body weight over this other leg. And then I shift back push into this knee, come over to this side. A more advanced exercise that you can try to do in this posture, pretend like you're holding a cup of coffee, pour the cup of coffee out and wrap your arm in front of the knee. Bring your other arm up and behind you and try to grab your own fingers or wrist and just hug. So this side is wrapped up in a bind, and you just turn and open the chest the other direction. This is also just kind of getting a spinal twist involved. It's just a way to keep yourself engaged while you're working this stance. But basically, you're just trying to stay in this squat position. From there, if we want to start taking it into the reverse bow, you can put your hands down, sneak your other leg out straight. So now all my weight is on this leg that's underneath me. And again, I start trying to sink down to the heel, now with this leg out. You can be toe up or foot down. This is actually the stance, but anywhere in here is fine, because you're just trying to start thinking about keeping this leg straight. If you need to be up more and supporting yourself, that's fine, but try to relax, feel which part of your body is inhibiting you. It could be the ankle, could be the knee, could be the hip. So just try to feel that and kind of put that in your memory banks as something that you need to be working on. So we sink down. So now we're starting to maybe get into a low bow stance on one side. You can use your hands, push up straight, and then sink over into the other side. Again, you can start up on your toes or on your hands if your hips are still in the air, but you want to try to get the butt to the heel and ultimately the heel to the ground. And then you can push out into this other leg or turn it flat toward the ground. And then you can, using your hands, can just kind of come back and forth. Again, we're focusing on opening up the hips. You can either do the up and down version, or slightly harder is to try to scoot straight across in the middle. From there, you can stand up, try to sink down one leg, stand straight up, straightening the leg, sink down the other leg. Something to be thinking about is you never want your knee twisted offline from the toes. So if your foot is pointing straight forward and your knee is going out, your knee is coming offline. So just try to think as you sink, try to keep the entire leg, the femur, the shin bone, the knee, the toes, all in the same plane. So then you can, standing, practice sinking, looking over the extended leg in a defensive posture. Come up, turn, sink into the other leg. Try this back and forth several times. This is part of our Shaolin Kung Fu warm-ups, specifically because this is a hard posture to start working. So you need to start thinking about being able to have this mobility and flexibility as soon as possible. So try to do this exercise as often as you can. From there, we can begin the more passive stretches. The most basic being the butterfly stretch. You can go ahead and come into this posture. We're trying to stretch the knees apart from each other, opening up through the groin. So again, you spend some time letting your body relax. If your body's all fired up and tight and uncomfortable, your hips and groin are going to be tight. The quad area will be tight. So let your body weight sink down into your seat. Feel yourself relax and loosen up the upper body. And then from there, start trying to fold forward. See if you can get a little more out of this stretch. If you can get your elbows down onto your thighs, pry the elbows out to the sides as you push into the legs to open up through the groin. We don't want to just take a tight groin and then push the knees straight down. We want to spread outward and then down. Or then it'll more easily go down on its own. Just think about spreading outward. If you need to, you can be keeping your hands behind you. Just wherever your knees are, just try to feel them stretching away from each other to open up through the groin. Next stretch we often do for this is the fire log pose. You either stack one ankle above the knee and then drop the other knee on top of this ankle, or you can just simply cross your legs, but don't have them tucked in. You want them out to where the ankles are underneath the knees out in front of you. And from there, you just simply sink again down into your seat and fold forward. So from the fire log stacked position, you can keep one hand behind you. First step would be to start trying to push this knee down toward the ankle until you can get that. So now we're getting more of like an outward rotation in the hips. And then you can rest your forearms on the knees and ankle and just gently fold forward to apply a pressure down on this. You should feel it in your hips and glutes, and you just hang out in this posture. This is like a yin yoga stretch, meaning you can just sit in it and allow gravity to open you up. So you just kind of sit forward, and as you become more and more open, gravity will just pull your chest down, and you can just keep going with that. Don't try to actively yank through it. Allow this to open naturally, and as it does, you'll begin to sink. You're gonna need to do this stretch for several minutes at a time. Don't just think you can do it for 30 seconds and something will happen. You have to spend some time here. You have to stay mentally engaged in your body so that the mind, the awareness can bring kind of your mind-body connection to this area that's tight and help it release and relax and open rather than just yanking it apart while not being conscious of the area. Then you would switch the cross of your legs or the stack and do the same thing on the other side. Start by pushing this knee down and then sitting forward, allowing gravity to begin to open up this hip and glutes. After that, after several minutes of doing that, you can come back to your butterfly and see if it's opened up any more space for you, and just try this again. You can alternate back and forth between these two. Last stretches I want to show you are stretches that you do lying down. You're going to need a belt or a strap for these. You hook one under your heel, hold it up near the foot, and lie down with this leg coming up straight. So I'll turn, let's see, to the side here. So first, you keep the other leg extended straight, and you just lock this leg out straight. Hold it wherever you need to keep the leg locked straight, pushing out through the heel. You'll pull it toward you as much as you can, and keep the leg straight. From here though, we're gonna begin to open it up to the outside. So we're not just gonna flop and let my other hip come up. My hip that's on the leg that's straight and is on the ground, I keep that hip and lower back down as I open up through this leg. You're gonna need to roll your belly. So as my leg comes out, I need to roll my weight away, roll my belly away from that open leg to keep this hip down. Otherwise, this hip will come up and the leg will just flop down. So I want to maintain an active
active hold through this side of the body that's on the ground by rolling my belly toward that leg, keeping my weight connected, and from there, then try to open up through the groin and extend out to the side. You'll hold that for several breaths, and then bring it back up. Then you allow it to drop over. Again, don't just fold over. Hold it straight up. Let it close through the quad, but you're keeping this extended leg straight down. And now I'm rolling my belly the other way to keep my outside hip and lower back down rather than letting them roll off the ground. So you just go a few, maybe like 20 degrees across wherever you can. Keep this arm extended and continue stretching out through the heel, keeping the leg straight. Then you come back to the center, keeping the leg straight. Pull your neck and upper torso toward the leg and pull the knee toward your face. Keeping the leg straight. Don't let yourself bend the knee. Keep just pulling it toward you, trying to pull your torso up toward you for a few breaths, and then relax down and release. And then you'll switch legs. I'll give you another view. I'll give you this view. Leg comes up. Other leg goes flat. We're holding it. I push the heel out. I lock the knee straight. And I drop the leg open. Again, I'm rolling my belly away from this leg. Rolling my belly and weight into my lower back and hip on the side that's extended and on the ground. And then I allow the groin and hip to open up. Focus on rolling the belly away from the leg that has the strap on it. Then you bring it up. You can switch hands on the grip. And then just drop the leg across. Now I'm rolling my belly this way to keep this lower back on the ground as much as possible. And I keep the leg in the air straight and feel the outside of the hip try to open. You hold that there for several breaths, then bring it in again. Roll up, head toward the foot, and hold, trying to bring the knee toward the head. And then release. There are lots of other stretches you can do for this area, but this is just a good place to get started. And then try to come back into your bow stance and switch into your reverse bow. See if you have a little bit more space or openness for this posture. And then finally, just to release this area, just circle this knee forward and out. Let this leg feel like it's just dangling off the body. Move the knee in little circles. All the motion is coming from the hip and groin, not from the ankle. The ankle is just moving because it's along for the ride. And then other leg, you're opening from the quad, circling the knee, rolling through the ankle. Let this area release. And you can do a few hula hoops to slowly move around in this area, both directions. All right, there you go. So that's how you're going to get your hips and groin, your quad open so that you can come into the reverse bow stance. Thank you.